Let's go.
Hi, guys, and welcome to the first edition of our podcast. So, my name is Mr. M, and I'm introducing here. I'm sure you guys already know him. Is Maurice the Connector. So, today's podcast is going to be about myself and, more importantly, Maurice, and about what we're trying to achieve on our journey. So, firstly, the introduction of this interview today is going to be about introducing Maurice and who he is and what his story is and what he represents. And more importantly, what he's trying to achieve in life. And I think that in itself is going to be an accolade and a journey for a lot of us to kind of understand and follow. Some will connect and some won't. But you know what? The message will always resonate with everyone who's involved in this. And if you pay enough attention, you might hear that golden nugget. You might hear 10 golden nuggets. But from Maurice's background, what he's done, where he's been, where he's come from, and what he's achieved is going to be something which is going to be a story to tell. So without further ado, just again introduce myself. My name's Mr. M. And for now, I'm introducing Maurice the Connector. Hi, Maurice. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I'm feeling good. Good to be here, Ali, and Mr. M, because, at the end of the day, it's nice to be alive and breathing. That's the most important thing. I show every morning I get up and I thank God for breathing, and I show gratitude because I've got the right attitude now. Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Gratitude and attitude. I love these kind of rhyming slang kind of terms. They really do hit home, And it's not about kind of creating that whole story of in terms of trying to understand the message. Gratitude or attitude equals gratitude. That in itself is a summary of a whole kind of mindset, really, isn't it? To be fair, just with statements like that. So just quickly, Maurice, in terms of where you are now, let's go back a little bit. I'm just going to give some context on you first to the viewers or the listeners. So I've known Maurice for about 25 years on and off. Like when I say on and off, I've probably met him once every 2 or 3 years, randomly in our local area, and bumped into him shopping. And I've seen this guy always looking fresh, always looking clean. And I'm like, Maurice, what's going on? How you doing, man? He's like, yeah, I remember you from David Lloyd's. So I used to be a personal trainer then. This guy was showing up, working on a good sweat, doing his shadow boxing upstairs, and to me, he was an inspiration even back then. And I was in my mid-20s, and this guy was, I think he was in his 40s around about then. So, that's an accolade. And what it was, we met company and we just kind of party company, just kept in touch very randomly here again on social media. And then I was watching Maurice on social media recently on his Facebook, and I seen what he was doing, trying to achieve with his mindset coaching, his mindset tours, and the people he's getting involved in his circles. And I said, you know what, that is an amazing journey. It's an amazing story. And he told me about what was going on, how he's trying to achieve even greater things now. He's stepped up. So I think the first question to turn it back to Maurice is where did all this journey start of self-development and growth? Where was the why moment for you?
The why moment, and that is, Mr. M, a good point you brought across there. The why moment came from the journey that I began, the journey of the unknown, I would say, because when you're growing and you're born, I believe we're all dying, but we're finding and seeking that real inner self of knowing, do you know what I mean? Knowing your why and knowing your must. And I would say once you know your why and you know your must, you're nearly there, because you know why things are happening to you and what you must do. So you know your why and your must in what you must do. Now you know why you're here in this world. And my journey.
So let me ask this, Maurice. Was there a defining pinnacle moment or pivotal moment, or was it a combination of events over time and time and time? Was there like this epiphany, this light bulb come on and said, you know what, enough's enough? Or was it a combination of events and then a kind of a reasoning?
I would say it was a catalyst. Do you understand? I would say it was a catalyst because I'm a former drug dealer, former gangster. You know what I mean? I grew up with my mum and 5 siblings, My dad left home when I was 7 years old. I struggled with that greatly, like every child would, you know what I mean?
Right.
I always looked at my dad as the hero, you know what I mean? Going to work and doing things like that, playing. I remember all those playing times, but then all of a sudden he wasn't there. And I always wondered why he wasn't there, and I grew up, fast forward till I was about 13 years old, and I was getting put in a corner by my teacher and telling me I wouldn't be nothing in life. Do you know what I mean? All these horrible things when I look back. What a horrible thing to say to a 13, 14-year-old that you will nothing in life. I mean, I used to muck about.
Can I just stop you there, Maurice, for a second? Just quickly to go back to your father and his interaction in your life. Would you say that he was ever a role model? Would you say that he ever inspired you? Would you say that he didn't inspire you? What would your perspective be? Because obviously, you know, you've had 7 years of his kind of him being around you, as you mentioned. And there's no disrespect in any conversation. It's always just about honesty and openness, just to kind of understand your background. So, yeah, what would you say that relationship was like?
That's all right, man. You could ask me anything. The truth sets me free. I speak the truth every day now. But
Great.
at that time, I would say there was no inspiration because you don't know that you don't know about inspiration at 7 years old, 6, 7 years old. All you know about was fun. The fun in
Right.
my life had gone. Do you know what I mean? And when the fun in your life goes as a kid, from what I can remember, things change in the way you perceive things to be, like discipline. Do you understand? Because he was one of discipline. The mum was the soft one. So your dad's gone now. So discipline wasn't, I wasn't great at that. So when I was going to school, I was
I
getting into
understand.
trouble, you know. So I guess that's why that teacher said that. But he should have said to me what was going on at home. There was great things going on at home. My mum was ill. They wanted to put us in a home and separate us. You know what I mean? Which was an horrible thing at that time. So as a
Oh
kid,
wow! So you're talking about separating the family as a
yeah,
unit in terms of
yeah,
the council, or
yeah, the council, the social services were saying that my mum was
wow,
having trouble with us because she was sick. She had hay fever, but she fought back anyway from her deathbed many times, going into hospital and things like that. I said, no, I want my kids to stay together. I respect my mum and love my mum. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
For that. And she kept us together. So at that time
perfect.
in my life, you know, discipline wasn't my forte, you know what I mean? So I was mucking about at school, you know.
So moving on forward until you're 12 to 13 years old, your teenage years, and you mentioned you got into the drug scene. So let me ask, how did that come about firstly? Was that a social circle? Was you pulled into it through gangs? Was that something that you saw people doing and you saw they were having a great life, a good life, or something that you want? Obviously, there was a calling for you. There was some sort of enticement there. Where would you say that came from?
Well, I think that enticement came from me coming from that background and not having money. They say money is the root of all evil, but that's a lie. It's the love of money. You know what I mean? I never had no money growing up. When I left school, I did try and get a job. You know, many times you go for a job, and I can remember this pinnacle time when my white friend went for a job and he came back and he said, Morris, there's vacancies here at this place called Talfers. And I said, all right then. He said, go there now because there's vacancies. And I went there and had the interview and they said, there's no vacancies. You know, I went there, they
Right.
sat me down for an interview. They said, sorry, but there's no vacancies there. I put it down to my color at that time because in the 70s, it was really prejudiced. So that made me get disheartened. Do you know what I mean? Of
And
trying
we're
to
obviously talking about London. We're talking about London in
London.
the 70s or
We're
80s.
talking about, it wasn't London because I'd moved to Northampton at that time, but
Ah, okay, sorry. Yeah.
I was born in London, but I'd moved to Northampton on the journey of my life because I was in the West
Mhm.
Indies for a while. Then we moved to Northampton.
So Maurice, tell me about the gangster life. What was that? Because I think many people have different perspectives, and I'm sure some of the listeners today are going to be maybe from this background, maybe in this current style of living, and looking for a way out. Because I think criminal activities and criminal life doesn't last the test of time. You know, you always hear people have ended up they get caught out at some point, and everyone's looking over their shoulder. It's not a peaceful way of living. It's not a happy way of living. And you mentioned something earlier on, which was really an interesting statement. You said money doesn't create evil people. It's the love of money, or it's the how did you
Yeah,
phrase it earlier on?
what it is, right? They say money is the root of all evil. That's what you hear growing up.
Mhm.
So if you money is the
Mhm.
root of all evil, money is, but it's not. It's the love of it. And what happened to me
Right.
after wanting money, couldn't get a job. My friends was
Mhm.
coming, you know, with money and nice clothes and cars and things like that. And I was 17 at 16, just turning 17 at the time. You know, and I asked them
Mhm.
what were they doing? Because they were my friends. So they call it
Mhm.
a gang now, but it's just your friends, your associates, right? But that's called as
Sure.
that's a gang now. They call it, right?
Yeah.
So they said, Morris, we do this, we do that. So I went and got some weed, marijuana. I started to
Mhm.
sell marijuana and that. And then I crept up the ladder. So I eventually crept up the ladder and got big, selling weed on the streets to friends, people, and that. Started to make a lot of
Mhm.
money. And, you know, at the end of the day, I started to love that money because I know I grew up with no money, buying nice things, jewelry, cars and things like that. At the end of the day, I used to think that was success because I became successful at that. But I would say success is finding yourself and getting to know yourself because
Right.
that,
So
and
so just sorry, Moy. So just so how long were you doing that for
I
before
was
you
doing that
started
for 12
to
years. 12 years.
write 12 years? And at what point did you realize, you know what, this isn't my life. This isn't where I want to be now or even in the future anymore. Was there a key moment? Was there like your life was threatened? Was it a child? Was it a loved one? What happened that made you realize that this wasn't the life you wanted to live?
Well, many things happened in that darkness I don't even want to talk about because in that darkness, it's a horrible life to live. You don't know what you're going to live,
Mhm.
fights, things happening in that place. Do you know what I mean? But I
Right.
think going into jail and then coming out and then going back in and not knowing, and this, I'm going to be truthful here, not
Mm.
knowing what you're meant to be, having
Mm.
no confidence in believing that you could be anything in life other than a drug dealer, you know,
Right.
that was some thoughts that went through my head sometimes. I'm gonna have to do this for the rest of my life because I
Mhm.
felt like I couldn't get a job. I would never say I would be a businessman like I am now because that was too far fetched for my thoughts at that time. Do you know what I mean? But
Right, right. So there was no guidance or education for you to realize your own potential.
no, yeah, I didn't believe in myself that I could get a job anymore or become a businessman. But the catalyst that happened was when my 18-month-old son passed away. I got a phone call saying he
Right.
had an accident at home. He died at home, accident at home, and
18-month-old son.
18 months
Oh,
old, yeah,
goodness.
right.
Goodness.
So when that happened, I wanted to die too because the truth of the matter, I only hugged him about 10 or 15 times because I was out there partying, drinking, smoking. I used to
Mhm.
think that was success, but my kids, I had other kids, and it's like I wasn't paying attention to that. They say
Right,
where the
got you.
focus goes, the mind goes, and I was focusing
Mm.
on the wrong things instead of the right things. So I was out there partying. But when my son died, I wanted to die too. My mind started to play tricks on me. When I look back now, I needed a mindset reset. My mum used to
Right.
say to me, Maurice, come to church. I say, Mum, I ain't got enough time to come to church, man, because I was out there dancing and enjoying life. But when that happened,
Yeah.
I wanted to come out of that. Do you know what I mean? And I went to church. Yeah, I went to church and things started to happen differently.
Right. It's almost like the fulfillment of the good and fun times wasn't, it was almost a lie, a false sense of fulfillment and truth. It was far from the truth, where again, sorry to kind of go over this point, but when your son passed away at such a young age and your heart lost itself and the real love in yourself, well, would you even say a part of you was left there with your son? Would you say that it was a rebirth for you? It was a moment of like
Well,
serious self-reflection.
well, when I look back now and when I speak on stage, I say to people, if my son, I thank God for that because would I be the same person I am today? And I think everything happens for a
Right.
reason. Life is happening
Mhm.
for you, not to you. Because when he passed away, I didn't want to be out there selling drugs. I wanted to do something different. They say adversity introduces a man to himself. It certainly did me. In your darkest hours,
Say that one again. I think that's quite a powerful statement there. Adversity.
adversity introduces a man or woman to themselves. That introduced
Right.
me to myself when my
Mhm.
son passed away, because that made me not want to be that person, a drug dealer. That made me want to seek something else. They say, seek and you shall find, knock and the door shall be open. I was knocking, my
Mhm.
friend, because I wanted that door open in a different way. And I went in and I seen the light.
Mhm.
Now it's
So
shining
so
bright.
from go perfect. No, perfect. I think it's a great understanding of again what the catalysts were, what the starting point of your life was to where you let's say into your like mid 20s to early 30s, you
Yeah,
started to see things slightly differently.
yeah.
And then from there, what happened with you in terms of where was the where was the moment where you realized that you had potential to grow within yourself and you said, you know what, now something's happening, now I can see a change? And were there any inspirational people within your life who actually opened up your eyes to a different way of thinking or a different way of doing things?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I came out of that darkness of selling drugs when my son passed away and started to go to church, it changed my mindset completely because I now wanted to work. And briefly I went and got a salesman's job selling double glazing. Then I got a courier job. Got some money together, me and my girlfriend. Then we had a market stall. Had a market stall selling woman clothes. I didn't wear none, right? I didn't
Nah.
put none on, right? We were selling woman clothes, designer stuff in London, in Ealing. And then from selling the clothes, I got like a couple of vans, and I was doing couriering. From the couriering, I met a man that said that he was going to go on, open like a executive car company, be a manager there. And he asked me if I would come and join him. And I went there and I started to drive for the BBC and stuff like that. From that, I met a man called Steve. This was the pinnacle point, one of the pinnacle points in my life. I met a man called Steve. He was a hedge fund banker, like a hedge fund, working for a hedge fund, a £6 billion hedge fund company. And all these drivers used to drive him. And I used to drive him. He took a liking to me. We started to get on and conversate, after about, I would say about a month, 2 months of driving him, on and off and everything. He started to, request me, like he wanted Morris, can I have Morris to drive me and things like that. And I could remember one day, he said to me one day, Morris, you're more than a driver, you are. You're more than a driver. And when I look back now, that man knew me more than I knew myself back then. Because remember, I'm coming from the darkness. But he seen a character. Like Bruce Lee said, knowledge will give you power. Character will give you respect by knowing who you are. That man knew me, and I didn't know myself. I know myself now. Do you understand? So from there, it was him that gave me great inspiration, because after working and driving him there, he said to me one day, Morris, how would you feel coming and working for me specifically, driving my car and taking me to work? And also, Morris, taking me to these meetings, and you could come in as well. That was like, wow, that was sort of like Eddie Murphy business, because here I was driving these clients to these meetings like Goldman and Sachs, all these banking places. Now I'm going inside with this man, Steve. Steve said I could come in. So I'll be sitting in these boardrooms, having lunch and things like that. Lehman Brothers, Morgan and Stanley, in these places. So they thought I knew what they knew, but I was just his confidant. You know what I mean? He brought me, that opened my mind up to business and seeing the way he approached. Because he was about 29 years old, and he was earning 2 million a year as a speculator. Yeah, as a speculator. So I used to drive him. We used to go clubbing together. I used to pay for everything. He sort of liked me. And because I remember when I first met him, I thought, this guy is a bit strange, because he never used to talk. But then afterwards, I found out that he had a big collection of rap music, NWA rap.
Oh, nice.
You know what I mean? So he liked the black element of the rap game. Do you know what I mean? Even though he was a white guy. And then he was setting up a business, leaving that company and setting up a £1 billion company with a colleague of his, a hedge fund company, right? And I said to him, I could set up a car company to deal with your staff. And he said, that's a good idea, Morris. You could drive my clients and things like that. So me and a friend of mine set up a company with his car and my car to drive his clients and staff and everything. And that's how I became a chauffeur company that I run now. Yeah, so he was a big influence in part of my journey, I would say.
Right. So just to summarize that's a great story. Definitely in terms of how it all started, how it all began very innocently, just a friend of a friend. It was the hard work and the consistent effort. Show up to work, put the time in.
Staying committed.
Yeah. And I think as well, it's the art of connection and rapport. And that's for me, is when there's a statement that goes around sometimes in our circles, and it's your network is your net worth.
Yes.
The people that you know have a direct impact on the amount of money that you can potentially earn in your life, or the success you can have, whether it be marital success, whether it be family success, or wealth success within business. It's your network. Your network can build up your net worth. And that is in terms of how much value they can add to you. So I think that's a clear example of the potential in terms of where you guys had it met initially. You weren't his full-time driver, and then you developed and grew. And it sounded like he inspired you to the point, and obviously you invested money into the business, and then you started off there. And here we are to having this great discussion. In terms of Maurice the Connector. When did Maurice the Connector come about? Because you weren't always Maurice the Connector. You know, let's say you were Maurice the market guy with his girlfriend. Let's say you were Maurice the dealer at some point. Let's say you became Maurice the courier.
Starboy.
Then
My
you
nickname
became
on the streets was Starboy.
cowboy.
Starboy on the
Nice.
streets. Yeah. So
Maurice the cowboy.
yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same ring as Maurice the Connector, but it sounds cool. It sounds cool. So
For the
and
streets,
then
that
and then
was all right for the streets.
right, got you. Perfect.
Yeah.
So now here we are today with Maurice the Connector.
Yeah.
When did Maurice Connector first come about as a mindset for you in terms of realizing that there's a potential for diversifying your personality and your energy into a different aspect?
Well, Morris the Connector came about. I'll have to go back a bit, how Morris the Connector came about, because through the journey, a lot of adversity I suffered. This may trigger, but you know, the first tragedy in my life was when I was 14 and my brother got murdered. You know what I mean? He was 19, he got stabbed to
You
death.
were 14 years old and your brother got.
Yeah, yeah,
How was this?
yeah. So that was the first death in my family. So I'm just going to go through some adversities now to show you how
Sure.
Morris the
Can I
Connector.
just quickly ask how did that happen, Maurice? Was it gang related? Was it innocent? Was
Yeah,
it
it was a fight. It
um
was a fight. Yeah, it was a fight
oh
he
wow.
had, and he got stabbed to death. That was the first time I discovered death in my family, where I didn't really understand death at that time. So it wasn't like
Yeah.
it was a big impact. Do you know what I mean? At that
Mhm,
time, do you know what I
mhm.
mean? Right? But yeah, that was the first one. But leaving that in 2007, I lost like in 2000 and when was it? 2019, not like 2019, no, 1989, I lost my first son. Then in 2007, I
Right.
lost my sister. In 2010,
Mhm.
I lost my mum. In 2011, I
Wow.
lost my dad. In 2015, I lost my girlfriend, my common law wife, you know, who was together 35
Wow.
years, my
This is
common law
it's hit
wife.
after it sounds like it's
Yeah.
just hit after
And
hit,
then in
year after year.
2018, I lost another son. So I lost two sons. So I'm coming through a lot
Goodness.
of adversity. Do you know what I mean? So Morris
Mhm,
the Connector grew through that pain. Do you understand? To
mhm,
power. Do you understand? Because I had to grow and get through. I had to rise like a phoenix through the ashes many times. And I rose by believing in God. And I would honestly say here and now, if I didn't have no belief in the first time when my son passed away and I came out the darkness and started to go to church, I wouldn't be here now. But coming out that
mhm,
darkness led me to believe that there was a reason for my life, reason for what was happening in my life. So going through all
mhm.
the adversities and coming to my common law wife committing suicide, I was in 3 months of darkness. I wanted to die too. I tried to commit suicide, right? And I used to say, why me? Why me? Many times in the darkness, Mr. M, many times. But now I say, try me, because coming out of that after 3 months of darkness, I can honestly say, try me now, because I believe in me. I know it had to be me to become the real me that's within inside me and everyone. And now it's not about me anymore. It's about we.
Mhm,
Do you understand? It's about me and everybody else, the service I give to others
mhm,
now.
mhm,
Like Muhammad
mhm.
Ali said, the service to others is the rent we pay for being in this world. Do you understand? And that's a fact, that's a
Right.
brilliant quote from Muhammad Ali. It's about the service we
Mhm,
give. So coming out of my common law wife's death, right? I got asked at the gym, a woman called Sonia, the same gym that used to go. A woman called Sonia said to me, Moise, how about we used to play tennis together. How about coming and speaking how you got into business at a business event in the city of London? I'm like, what?
mhm.
Do you know what I mean? In front of 150, 200 people, she said, just to
This
talk
is this
about
is
your
like far from yeah,
far
this is
from
far
what
from your
I'm
comfort
used to.
zone, right?
Yeah, far from a comfort zone. But I believe in life, you have to be fearless. Then your life becomes limitless.
Mhm,
So I became fearless through my journey of
mhm,
what happened in my life.
mhm,
So that was my growth. So when I came through that and she asked me that, I said to her, yes. Then 2 months later, Mr. M, right? She had done all the brochures, everything. She said, Morris, you know, next week you've got to come down there and you've got to speak on stage and everything. So seen the brochure, I was like, wow, you know, Maurice Lovian, this and that, it said. So I said to my son, one of my sons, I said, come with me and everything. So I went there was 5 speakers and everybody was there. And, you know, I see speakers going up there. They all had notes and everything. They were talking about how they got into their multi-million-pound business. Then my time came. Would Morris Lothian come to the stage? You know, clap for Morris. And I went up there. I didn't have no notes. You know what I mean? But I
Just
believe when I look,
freestyling it all the way.
honestly, I believe when I look back, I think to myself, that was a calling from God, because I went up there and I said, good evening, everyone. I've never done nothing like this in my life. My teacher said I won't be nothing in life, but I wish you could see me now speaking in front of all you wonderful people. And I got the biggest clap and everything. That settled my nerves, man. Do you know what I mean, right?
Nice.
Told them a bit about my story. You know, grew up and didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was in darkness and blah, blah, blah. When I came off stage, about 7 people crowded around me, said that was very inspiring, Morris, and everything, and things like that, you know? And then when I left there, the next day, this is pinnacle, a teacher phoned me. And the teacher, this guy called Andrew, said, I got your number from Sonia. Would you like to come to my school and tell your story to the children that are going through their GCSEs? I said, yeah. He says, how much would it cost? I said, nothing, man. I'll come and do it. So when I went to the school a week later and I told my story and everything to the youths and everything, and I brought out the pictures because my chauffeur company drives Justin Bieber. I didn't mention that earlier. My chauffeur company drives Justin Bieber, Beyonce, done Whitney Houston's tour of London, Usher.
Keep dropping those names, boys. Keep dropping those names. It's a big names
Alicia Keys, all of them. Will Smith, I've driven. Do you know what I mean? So when I showed them the video of Beyonce in my car and me, pictures of me and Justin Bieber, after the talk, they started to hug me. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh, they've seen a guy come from zero to hero. Do you know what I mean? And like I said to them, you're the pen and paper of your story. You could play the victim or the hero. I believe I'm the hero now. You understand? I believe I'm the hero now. So I started to do that. So he started to ask me to come to schools because he seen the way I could inspire the youths, right? So I started to do that. And then after a while, I was at home one day and the Spirit said to me, Morris, this is what God gave you all that pain for. He gave you all that pain for you to inspire people, to give people and show people that they too can grow through anything with the resilience and the power of the embracing things that he has given all of us, that will, the same will as him. And then I started to study it. That's when Morris the Connector came to life, you know, because then I said to myself, I need a name. And I said, Morris the Connector. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm connected to myself.
Why connector? Where's the
connector comes from me connecting to myself now, coming from the darkness and connecting to the light, the source, the energy, giving out the right vibrations to get the energy back.
Because Morris the Connector to me comes across like as a networker's name, but what you're actually saying is connect to yourself.
No. What it is, Morris the Connector, everything in this world is about connecting. Everything, when you look at it, it's all to do with connection. And my logo is about connecting, right? But Morris the Connector prolifically came from inside of me, in knowing me, believing in me, being confident now, you know, knowing what I've got. Do you know what I mean? Knowing what God has given me, that pain to power, to empower. Do you know what I mean? So I'm connected to the source now. So I send out the vibrations, I get the energy back. Do you know what I mean? Because
it kind of comes from the fact that you weren't, let's say to summarize it this way, and you correct me if I get it wrong, is that you didn't have that connection with yourself growing up. And on the journey of all these trials and tribulations and the losses, the situations where you met the guy who inspired you to set up your own business, that was when you started connecting with yourself, up until the teachers inviting you to these meetings where you're meeting these people and having a stand-up kind of presentation to them. That in itself, all those events accumulatively led to you connecting to yourself.
Believing in myself, because that's the main thing. The main thing in life, I would say to the viewers that are listening, is everybody connecting to themselves and starting to love themselves. I started to love. Do you know what I mean? I started to love myself now. When I was a gangster, I didn't love myself. You know what I mean? I was doing, many things happened out there. I was just doing. And what we've got to realize that everything, the fault determines the outcome, because everything you become what you think about. And what I used to think about, I became the gangster, because that's all I used to think about was money, you know,
Right.
jewelry.
So this is the power of of manifestation, would you
Yeah, so it's the
say?
power of the thought, the thinking. But remember, you have to do the work as well and stay committed,
Mhm.
disciplined. Do you know what I mean? To what you're doing. That's powerful, staying committed.
Mhm.
I stayed committed. Many times the gangsters wanted me to come back and would say, Morris, you're going to come and do this. I said, no, I don't want that life no more. I stay committed. And once you stay committed, and it's a journey of repetition in doing,
Mhm.
getting rid of the habits. Because what I had
Just
was
quickly,
habits.
just quickly while I've got you on this place, is there any advice you could give to any people who are going through this now in their time? Because I'm sure the listeners out there are going to be from varying ages, maybe some as young as whatever and as old as whatever. But the point is that if there were any words of inspiration right here, right now, what would you think would resonate with them?
Well, what will resonate with them is, what are you thinking about? What is the future you? What do you want to become? Sometimes we are so busy, right? Doing, but what are we
Mhm.
doing? And what are we being as human beings? We have to take
Mhm.
time out to find out. Like you said something earlier about the inspiration with with Steve. You understand? But if you
Mhm.
show me your friends, I'll show you your future. If you see my friends
Mhm.
back then, you would know my future was going to be as a gangster, go to jail, because that's my friends. I was a product of my environment, the way I perceive things
Mhm.
to be, and my awareness. So now I've got great awareness now. I perceive things to be a
Mhm.
different way. And this is why I have a program for the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. It's called Mindset
Mhm.
Reset, because I was a fixed mindset. I believed
Mhm.
I only could be a gangster. I'm a growth mindset now. I believe I could do anything I
Right.
want to do now. I'm an eagle
I think
flying
that's a
high.
very powerful
Yeah,
statement. Yeah.
yeah.
Fixed
That's what I
mindset
would
and
say.
growth mindset, they're
Yeah.
very, very clear
So
definitions of
we
different.
become what we think about. So I would say
Mhm.
to the viewers that are listening, be careful what you think about. Habits are formed in what we're doing, and we don't realize it. We know a drug
Mhm.
addict, right? We know a drug addict, we know an alcoholic, but what about you? What habits have you got? Because it starts from when our baseline starts from when we're 6, 7 years old. And the way we see the
Mhm.
world determines our outcome as we're growing. It sticks with us in a certain way, you know what I mean? So certain habits have stuck with us, and that's the outcome we're getting sometimes with our minds, you know what I mean? So I would say to
I
them,
think
think,
something you just said there was very powerful, and it is fixed mindset over growth mindset, and though that attribute can either keep you stagnated or it can allow you to perceive things in such a
yes,
different way for our own journey.
yeah.
So with this program now that you've got, so you're talking about trying to go to schools, you're talking about trying setting up your own charity. So just quickly, what's the charity about, and what's the goal of the charity really?
Well, the goal of the charity and it's been is to give back. You know, I've been going to schools, like I said in my story earlier, being asked to go to schools, and the youths loving my story because I showed them
Mhm.
a guy that was a drug dealer. And then now I show
Mhm.
him a guy that's a businessman that never believed he could ever reach this height. You know what I mean, right?
Mhm.
So what I'm trying to say to the youths is, be careful what you're doing now. Do you want to be a follower or do you want to be a leader? Because in every
Mhm.
follower, there's a leader. We're born to lead. We're born to be kings or queens. Like my hashtag says, wear your own crown. The reason why that
Mhm.
statement's there is I believe I'm wearing my crown now. I believe I'm a king. I'm a leader. I'm not a manipulator. Do you know what I mean? Leaders
Mhm.
lead from the front. With leaders, it's not about power. You know what I mean? It's about
Mhm.
service with real leaders. So I'm about
I think in
service.
society, I think in society nowadays, with the governments that are in power and the leaders that we have in power, personal perspective, obviously everyone has their own opinion on who Joe Biden, Donald Trump, Rishi Sunak, all the great leaders that have been around, and everyone will have their own opinion on them. But I think it's like you said, I think leaders lead by example. They're willing to go the extra mile, and a true leader, you can make many definitions on leadership and what a true leader is. Um, like I said, we're talking about governments here who have economic growth and power. They're looking at about warfare. They're looking at about controlling certain aspects of society to make them go and think a certain way. But what we're talking about here is wearing your own crown, become a leader of yourself, understand who you are, and then how you can inspire other people. And I think that level of leadership is what we're kind of talking about more so than, like, say, a president or a prime minister.
Yeah, everybody. I believe, and for this is, I always speak from my perspective, from my journey. I never,
Mm.
I left school with no qualifications, but I went to university on the streets. Do you understand? So everything I talk about, I've grown through it, and I believe God gave me this. He gave me all this adversity to empower people, because every successful businessman has the right attitude, and every successful businessman reaches to the right altitude. Do you understand? Because of their attitude. It's our attitude. My attitude, what? I can't get a job. Some people say to me, Maurice, what would you tell a 16-year-old self now? And I would say, Maurice, continue what you're doing and what you love, you'll get there. Because don't worry about when it happens, Maurice. Worry about the consistency, what you're doing. Because persistence is another word for faith. And that's what I would say to you. Be persistent. What do you love doing? And my charity and my school, because I want to open like a center for alternative learning. I want to teach the youth life skills and empowerment. I never had no life skills. I had no empowerment from school. My teacher was saying I wouldn't be nothing. Many of them putting you down. I can you imagine if somebody was telling me, Maurice, you could be a champion in life. You know, like Bruce Lee said, hard work has given the underdog the chance to be a champion. And if you work hard at what you do, you could become what you want in anything you do. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I would empower the youths, and that's what my center is going to be about. What do you like doing? I'll say to them, come, let's talk about this mindset. What do you want to do? Why are you doing such a thing? Why didn't my teacher say to me, Maurice, what are you doing? Why are you so disruptive in class? Then I could have told him, I'm upset at home. Do you understand? Then we could do something about it. All the kids that are giving trouble in school and that, there's a reason for it. There's a reason for everything that happens.
There's an underlying issue. And
there's a reason why we're here now. There's a reason for everything that happens in life. There's a reason why I'm Maurice the Connector now. Do you know what I mean? There's a reason for everything in what I'm doing, you know? And
I think
people.
I think, yeah, definitely. I think something that resonated there in that whole conversation were many things, but something that stood out is hard work allows the underdog to become a champion. And I think, again, people that are listening to this podcast are going to be of a different background, different mindset, wherever they are in their life. Nobody really knows where anybody is. If you're not aware of what's going on in your life and you're just doing, as you said, you're not going to have the chance to reflect on yourself and your life and where you are and what issues and errors we may be making, why we don't have what we want in life. And it all is about us and the people that we are. They say that if you are the person you deserve to have those things, you will have those things. But if you aren't the person that can work towards those things, you cannot have those things. So I must be a certain person. If I want to be a policeman, then I need to study whatever the law states to become a policeman. If I've studied to become a plumber, I cannot become a policeman. If I've studied drug dealing, then I cannot become a businessman. So I think the whole conversation relates back to what you think is then what you act, and then what you act is then what you become. So the resonation of your message earlier on is be aware of your thoughts, think about those things. So even then, some potentially from my perspective on what you said was, if you were to give yourself as a 16-year-old advice, you would almost, a point of advice or reference would be, is whatever you think of is whatever you would do. And then whatever you do is whatever you become. So change your thoughts about drug dealing and think about trying to make money elsewhere, another way. Think about education. Think about the things, your family. Think about the things that motivate and drive you to try to achieve better in yourself. And I think that in itself is a good catalyst or a seed to sow someone of a younger generation mindset where they're caught up in their doing. They may be thinking about changing their life, but they don't have the power to influence themselves more than they're allowing their friends or other people to influence them. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. Bruce Lee said, right, when the student is ready, the master will appear. Do you understand? When the student is ready, the master will appear. And that's what I believe in. We have to get the students ready for the master to appear by empowering them. Do you understand? And giving them the life skills, giving them things that they want to learn. And that's what my platform's about. In the resources that I have around me, whatever they want to do, I could point them in the right direction. If they want to be a banker, I've got a banking platform. If they want to be a plumber. If they want to do a footballer, if they want to do music, I could point them there where they can go and get experience. That's what I want to do. The outcome of my platform and my center, when the youth start getting kicked out of school or on the brink of getting kicked out of school, they come to my center and I empower them to believe in themselves that they can go ahead and do what they want to do. I'm not saying every student is going to agree with me and go and do it, but save one, you could save many.
Yeah, yeah. So I think one day at a time, one person at a time can change the world slowly.
Yeah.
Just to kind of go over very quickly. So we're going to kind of finish up on the podcast in a few minutes. So I just wanted to close off with your charity work and what your current fundraising plan of action.
My plan of action.
I heard you're going to fight Chris I heard you're going to fight Chris Eubank. Is that true?
He's too old for me. Chris Eubank's too old for me now. I'm too young for him. Do you know what I mean? Right? No, but you know, I've been trying to get funds up for my project, and you know, I'm having trouble getting funds. So I was asked if I would do some boxing, and I said, yeah, I'll do it for my charity. So I set up a charity, which is Moist Connector CIC, about a year ago. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go in the ring at the young age of 60 and box. Some people say it's insanity, but it's not insanity. It's to give
60 years old
reality.
It's a ripe old age.
Yeah, it's what it is, Mr. M, is to give the youth reality so they could go out in society and live a more reality and with morality, you know, to go out there and live and show morality out there.
I think a lot of people are very much age focused, and you should behave and act a certain way at a certain age. And I totally disagree with that, to be honest. I think as long as you understand life, you understand that listen, life isn't all hunky dory. It's not all fun and games. You meet these people who are quite jovial and very, they're kind of almost lost connection to the real world. But I think they've gone to a place of they actually realize what the real world is. And the real world is always going to be a tough place. It's always going to be a troublesome place. It's going to be more negative than positive. But if you can show strength and a smile and light in adversity, life will just come across so much better and so much easier. And that's why you meet a lot of people who are of the older generation, a lot wiser to life, who just, you know what, they're smiling and they're happy. Even if the troubled times come, they're still happy and they're still smiling, because it's the wisdom of realizing that life is just a roller coaster. It's never going to be a straight ride of happiness to
enjoy that ride, because you know, at the end of the day, right, none of us is going to get out of here alive. Life is risky, so take a risk. You understand? Take the risk in doing something, because it's risky. Do you understand? So do something. You know, Winston Churchill said, success isn't final, success isn't fatal. It's a courage to show, to go over and over back again. Because I believe we're here to win, or we're here to learn. We're either in a storm, going for a storm, or coming out of a storm. This is life. We have to understand it. And you know what, Mr. M, I think the greatest tragedy in life is people breathing oxygen and not knowing why. You know?
Oh, wow.
That's the greatest tragedy.
That's a powerful statement. That's a powerful statement.
Yeah. That's the greatest.
I think on ending on that note, just to give people food for thought, let them think about that and just realize the gift of life is such an amazing opportunity. From my perspective, is that if you don't even realize that you're alive, how can you appreciate life? Because then you're not living the gift that you've been given, but you're living the journey that you're going on. Yeah. And sometimes when that journey is downtrodden, it is pushing you back a bit. It is pushing you and testing your limits. It's something that you said as well. It's once you become fearless, you can become limitless. And that is super powerful to me. That is amazing. But you've got to be put in a place of fear first to realize what fear is, because you can only turn fear around once you go through fear. You know, you can only appreciate what a great tasting meal is if you have a rubbish, crap tasting meal. If you have a pizza that just tastes like rubbish.
Yeah, we're overcomers. Yeah? We're overcomers. Everybody has a story. It could be your glory or it could be gory. My story was gory. Now it's my glory. Do you understand? And God has given me that. Do you know what I mean? So I would say to people, listen, get up, like Bob Marley said, get up and stand up. Stand up for your rights, because
Oh, you're right.
you've got a reason to be in this world. I want to say to everyone that's listening, success is your birthright. I'm going to say it again. Success is your birthright. We were born to be successful, right? Every one of us are born to be successful. You never see a bird that can't fly, a fish that can't swim. Everybody was born for a reason, for this season. So let's go out there and do what's necessary in fighting for our rights. Do you understand? That's what we need to do.
Great. Amazing. No, totally agree. I think the world needs inspirational people. It needs people from certain backgrounds and walks of life to have them reflect and tell their story of adversity and courage and strength and triumph in the end of it. And I think you're a prime example of that. So it's been amazing to meet you today, Maurice. And obviously, we're going to be running these podcasts, and I think it's going to be me and you inviting guests on and speaking to them about their journey.
That's going to be fun.
Yeah, definitely. I think we're going to try and have global outreach on that. And in terms of trying to really get the message out there of people that everyone has a crown, they just have to locate it. They have to grow themselves for them to be worthy of wearing their own crown. But it's the realization of that we all have one and we're all entitled to it. And no one is any less than a leader or a king or queen. And that's a fact. That's a mindset in itself, right? So I think, Maurice, just if you want to add any closing statements to this podcast,
something you just said.
Happy to.
No, just something you just said about the message. I want to say to the viewers, in the mess, there's a message. Just remember that. In the mess, there's a message. Because everything we go through in life, we've come through to this point in our life. And if you're alive now, there's a reason for it, you know? And I'm just going ahead. I'm looking forward to my fight on the 18th of March. I shall put it on my YouTube channel, which is Moist the Connector, right? On my YouTube channel, it will be live on there. You know, I'm looking forward to it because I know they ain't going to find no one that's 60 for me to fight. But I've been training hard as ever for my charity. If they want to donate, go to Moist the Connector, cic.org.uk. And even if it's £1 for my GoFund, it's not for me, it's for the youths. And if you believe in me, believe in the youths, right? Because this is what it's for. Let's all stick together and come together, because it takes a tribe to raise a child.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. The kind of connecting mindset, the tribal mindset. I think it's great and amazing work you're doing. I'm sure that we'll get the team to put all the links into there with this podcast as well to any places that you want to go, the GoFundMe page or the social media links to follow you on Facebook. I think we're trying to create a movement here. I think the movement is already created. It's been going on since the dawn of time, where it's good versus evil, it's positive versus negative. It's triumph over adversity. So I think hopefully we'll be doing a podcast every week or so, and we'll be inviting on these guests. And and I think we'll put it out there to say we're going to try and keep it quite very positive, very very focus driven on mindset. I think also from my perspective, I like it kind of controversial as well. You know, choose subjects that are out there that a lot of people are concerned about, a lot of people are worried about. We're not afraid to talk the truth here. We're not afraid to. We're not being controlled by any external party or powers or diplomats or governments. We just want to have a real life conversation with real people across the world and just get their views on their perspective of life and maybe where things are going wrong, where we can put it right, being from our own backgrounds, and how we can share inspiration to the people. So for me, that's the end of the conversation from me, from Mr. M. I'll leave the closing statement to Maurice the Connector. And yeah, Maurice, so over to you and good evening.
Yeah, man, I enjoyed the conversation, man. I love talking. When I was 7 years old, my mum and dad used to call me a parrot. They used to say, shut up, you parrot. And my siblings used to make me cry. But now I get paid for speaking. I want to say to every one of you, you have a gift, you have a purpose. You are born to lead with something that's within you. Let's talk about it in our next conversation.
I think from there, what we might do is almost, if we get people posing some questions, if they want to pop them on a postcard, as they say, or just drop it in some sort of chat that will get set up. And we're happy to discuss their points of view, their perspectives, their concerns in society and in life. And we'll be happy to share that conversation with our colleagues and from our professional background and see if we can
Everybody's got something to say.
help guys.
Everybody's got something to say,
Perfect.
a different journey. Everybody has a different journey, but one thing we all got in common is the love that we reach. Because with love, we don't hate, we just elevate. So let's share that love, everyone, and have a
We don't
conversation.
hate, we just elevate. Guys, these are nuggets, you know. We don't hate, we just elevate. So guys, I'm gonna say good evening. Been pleasure speaking to you, Maurice. So
Right.
for me, Mr. M, good evening. And from Maurice the Connector.
Yeah, man. Look forward to seeing you all and speaking to you all on Wear Your Own Crown.
Guys, good evening. Cheers.
Thank you, Mr. M.
Thanks,
Thank you.
thanks,
Thank you.
Maurice. Cheers.